Hey, hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're logging in from. In this video, I want to talk you through some of the important aspects of how you can make the best out of your Six Sigma knowledge and your Six Sigma certification. What I'm going to do is to walk you through my career. I'm going to start by talking about where I started, how it all started for me, how did I make the transition, and I'm going to touch upon aspects of career prospects right now, salary prospects, and then how do you get the certification, and then how you use that, how do you handle dynamics in your office, and finally, how do you exit this role and use that as a stepping stone to go into larger roles. So let me start by talking a bit about me. I started with an education in science and then I moved on to gain an education in engineering. So I did 2 degrees, and just to mention that I don't have a statistics background. So for many of you, if you think that Six Sigma is statistics and statistics is Six Sigma, and if you don't understand statistics, you wouldn't make the cut as a good black belt, that is wrong. I don't have any background whatsoever in statistics. However, I have a little bit of background in engineering, but I should say that I know a lot of friends who are not engineers and who are still doing pretty well in Six Sigma. So that's not needed as well. So I started off as an engineer working for a manufacturing plant, and I did a variety of things like what we call as a process engineering. The job is to ensure that the processes needed to run the organization are established and improved over a period of time. I transitioned to 2 organizations, one in the automobile and then subsequently in the white goods space. Then in the organization in which I was working, which was making these refrigerator and washing machines, I had an opportunity to get exposed formally to Six Sigma. Because I already had a little bit of experience being a process engineer with improvement tools, etc., I got a chance to directly get into the Black Belt program. Now here's something that I want to mention to you. In some of the literature that you would find in the internet, you might see that a green belt is a prerequisite for black belt. The reason that that's important is because if you directly jump into a black belt, you may or may not understand all the concepts and you would really struggle completing your black belt course. So if you have experience with process improvement methodology by applying some of these analytical tools, then you may choose to skip the green belt. But I would always recommend that start with the green belt. I don't want you to commit the same mistake I did. So there I got exposed to the Six Sigma tools from a black belt perspective, and that helped me to make a big transition. Big transition because I moved from manufacturing. So think of it, a guy with an engineering degree moves to a bank and starts working for a bank, and all that is because the bank wanted to transform its processes and they were looking for people who had experience in this space of transforming processes, and they found me to be a good fit for that. That's how I transitioned. So I should say at this point that transitioning from one industry to another is certainly possible from a Six Sigma perspective for 2 reasons. One, because it gives you ample opportunity to move across industries. People find that, okay, a guy with an engineering degree can still be a good fit because he can help me to fix the process. That's one. The other and the more subtle thing is that the way you look at things, the way you look at processes as a black belt would be a bit different. You start seeing everything as an input, as an output, as a process, as interconnected chain of activities, and so on. So it is easy for you to get a system level view of most of the business processes that you already don't understand from sectors that you have no exposure, no formal exposure. And because of that, it makes it a little bit easy for you to move across sectors. And then subsequently, it also helps you to start helping those sectors if you want to be somebody like me right now, where I am not employed, but I am helping various organizations across sectors improve their processes. But I want to emphasize that you should first analyze what your strengths are. There's no harm gaining a green belt certification. It's good because it's mandatory, I would say, at this point of time for anyone working in any organization to have the ability to fix processes, have the ability to make a change, and thus show an improvement in the performance of the organization, because employers want you to show performance improvement and they don't want you to maintain the status quo. They don't want you as operations managers, within quotes, they want you as change managers. So I was talking about analyzing your strengths. I would reiterate that in my case, at least I found that I have a strong desire, and now I realize it's also a strength for me to solve problems, to basically get into troubleshooting. I spend endless hours fixing problems, even if it is with a closet in my house, because I enjoy troubleshooting. So find out what you enjoy. If you enjoy analysis, if you enjoy going deeper, if you enjoy creating something new, then Six Sigma may be a very right fit for you on long run. Just to reiterate, to get a green belt, you don't need any of this. In fact, if you gain a green belt qualification, a certification, or just a training and put that to use, that's going to hone some of these skills as well. But if you want to make this a career option, then you should have a strong desire to do these things. Now, talking about career growth prospects and career options, I want you to check out Google Trends. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Google Trends. That's a very good way to find out, in fact, a quick and dirty way to find out what's happening in the industry, what are the latest trends, and should I invest my time and effort into something or not. So I'm going to go into Google Trends. I'm going to click on some of the topics such as Lean Six Sigma. You could choose any other topic you want. I'm going to click on Lean Six Sigma, and that will show you kind of a trend over a period of time, over a period of last 12 months, and you see what is the search volume. Now, in no way the search volume is representative of the demand formally, but I would personally vouch on it because it gives you a very good hang of what's happening in the industry over a period of time. And if something is important, something is hot, people just go and search that. So with all that hype on social media and social media related analytics, I think it's stupid to ignore the Google Trends or trends in general. So this is the kind of pattern. More importantly, you have to come down here and see which parts of the world the searches are happening. And you would see from a color that Canada, United States, part of Peru, Colombia, some parts of Africa, largely Europe, Russia, interesting, India, Middle East, and of course Australia, and of course in pockets many other countries. So I'm going to leave this to you to go and experiment, but it tells you what is the trend. You could choose a specific city and then drill that trend down by city as well, and it also gives you a good idea of what topics people are looking for. I think that's not very important for us, but what's important for us is to know, is there a demand for Six Sigma? So coming back, this can ascertain in your geography, is there a demand for Six Sigma? The way to look at it is, if there is a demand, you can ride on the wave. If there's not much of demand, you might be part of that team which is going to create the demand. So you might ride over the wave, or you might be an early adapter. I would always suggest, as I mentioned earlier, start with a green belt. And when you start with a green belt, you get the basic knowledge. I want to use a small anecdote to help you to understand the difference between green belt and black belt. A green belt is like you and me who have a driver's license and we drive down to office and back, but we don't make our living out of driving. But if you look at an Uber driver, he makes his living out of driving. So a chauffeur like him can be considered as an equivalent of a black belt. He's more versatile, he can handle traffic, he's more robust from a traffic perspective, and he understands all the routes. A black belt is one who is going to make his living out of Six Sigma, but a green belt is one who is going to do what he or she is already doing, and he's going to leverage the Six Sigma skills to get more from it. So start with a green belt. And then I should also mention at this point of time that analytics, particularly machine learning, is coming up in a big way, and bulk of machine learning is actually analytics. And I would say that the foundation for analytics is getting laid in statistics, and a substantial part of that is happening in Six Sigma courses, because Six Sigma is application oriented. If you're going to talk of terms like parameter, variable, and all that stuff, which is pure statistics, it makes no sense to you. But when you start putting them into a context of a problem in the business and apply it in your own sector, then you're able to appreciate it much better. So that's why I would say gaining a Six Sigma on a long run, a Six Sigma knowledge and Six Sigma education on a long run is going to be helpful to you to transition to something like machine learning if you want. And talking about machine learning, because a lot of you would say why I need a Six Sigma qualification to be an expert in machine learning. The point really is, when you do a lot of literature research, you would find that now there are enough people who can do the coding as far as machine learning is concerned. But what's really missing is people who can go deeper and put a context to that algorithm. People are not able to relate to what's happening in the business. So lack of domain knowledge is where the big problem is. And so with Six Sigma, you may be able to see that through as a process. And at the end of it, I should also tell you that machine learning can give you an algorithm and an output, but that has to be implemented. That implementation is a process change, and machine learning experts are not equipped to take care of process changes. So ability to understand how this fixes in the large process is very, very important. And so I would say this is an indispensable skill. As more and more automation comes into place, like SAP and the other ERP solutions which came into place 2-3 decades ago, and a lot of changes happened. Similarly, now a lot of organizations are implementing all these machine learning concepts, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Everything is a change, and they need a change manager to drive it, and you can be one. So there's a unique way in which you can participate if you have a black belt qualification. But I want to emphasize that focus on knowledge and not on the certification. Certificate is important, there's no doubt about it. But remember, it's a professional degree. So application knowledge counts, and not the seal of the company or the agency or the university. You have to have the ability to get things done. Think about all those entrepreneurs. Do they have qualifications or degrees to be out there? Not really, right? But they have the will and the practical experience to get it done. So that's more important. Now coming back, I would say that if you want to create that application knowledge, you have to have at least a bit of practical experience implementing something. What I've done is I've created a set of, I would say, case files from various sectors, case files of project scenarios, and I have kind of, explained how in each of these industries Six Sigma projects are run. I'll share the details of them with you towards the end of this video, and I'm sure you'll get a very good understanding about your own industry or an industry that is adjacent to yours, and that can give you a good context. So I would say focus on the first project. Try to see how you can get your first project. Look for some improvement opportunity, a problem that you have to solve in your organization, an opportunity to implement a new change. If you're not working, then look for something in your college or in your society. Use the method, use the tools, put it in the framework. I will also share with you a template for DMAT projects and try to use that as well. And once you set that ball rolling, then I would say that's never going to end. Your quest to keep changing the processes around you would allow you to keep growing without stopping. Now, black belt certification, same logic applies, but application knowledge is more important than in the case of a green belt. Organizations hire you for a black belt qualifications. There are full-time black belt resources in organizations. It's almost like your driving experience counts more when you're an Uber driver and not really when you're commuting to office. Because you still have an option to take another mode of transport. But when you're an Uber driver, you're risking the life of your passengers. So the same logic applies here as well. Be sure that you have good application knowledge. Try to do a project for your employer. If that's not happening, at least try to get your certification and then see how you can apply those concepts. Try to get some artifacts, try to apply them in bits and pieces. That can help you to get a certification as well. I'll explain about those things as we move forward. But then that can also get you a job. So if you land in a job, then explore more and apply those concepts. I know many who have got a black belt certification and then subsequently they got into a black belt role because they were able to kind of at least relate whatever they have learned and have also applied them in context in some place or the other, as either as a freelance or as an intern. They have applied something or the other somewhere. Okay, coming and talking about interviews. Let's say you have to clear job interviews for black belt, then your domain knowledge, of course, counts a lot. But it's also about how you're going to link Six Sigma knowledge into that domain. And I'm not talking about clearing interviews for any other role. I'm talking about clearing interviews for a black belt role. Your domain knowledge counts. More importantly, how you're able to relate the Six Sigma into your domain knowledge. I was mentioning about how I transitioned from manufacturing to banking. I had no idea of how banks work, but I learned a little bit about processes in banks and I was able to explain and I was able to connect the dots and explain how Six Sigma can be a powerful tool for the bank. And that's how I got my first job, I should say, in banking. Then I moved on to 3 different banks and my final role was as a senior vice president heading the business transformation for a large bank across its business lines. So in that context of a job interview, I recently put together a book that's exclusively for that purpose. It contains a lot of interview questions which are asked in Six Sigma, black belt and green belt interviews. The book is really called as the Master Book for Lean Six Sigma Green Belt Certification. But though it's called as Green Belt, I should say that it covers a lot of information and I would say more than enough information for any black belt to clear a job interview. What are the challenges with Six Sigma roles? Let's say you got into a Six Sigma role. What are the potential challenges you're going to face? Firstly, you are not going to hold authority. If you've worked in operations where you have line control, where you have people reporting to you and you can get things done, with the case of a Six Sigma black belt, it's largely a facilitative role. So you don't have direct authority, and so you need to sustain your optimism over a long period of time of inactivity. There could be spurts of activities and then there could be scenarios where everything is going to go into a silent mode and people around you are not really bothered about whether you're improving the process or not. Only when it comes to quarterly reviews or annual reviews, people talk about improvement. So you have to find out innovative ways of engaging with people and getting things done. And in fact, that's a very, very soft skill, and there's also something on that I will share with you as we move forward. But I would say that this is one of the biggest challenges for people who have worked in line roles who come into the black belt role. Things are going to be pretty cool for some time, and after that you would start feeling the heat. People are not going to be bothered about you, and then you would realize that you're also not able to deliver any results to the organization. So it's very, very critical for you to keep your optimism at high levels and engage with people and build relationships to get things done. So the ability to act as a change manager and ability to influence is very critical. Okay, let's assume you did all that pretty well and you were in this role for a reasonably good period of time. What next? Am I going to be a black belt for the rest of my life? No. Of course, you will be a black belt in the sense that you have got a black belt certification. But if you got into a black belt role and you want to transition yourself out, I would think that is a great idea. Think about transitioning out to other line roles, roles which have accountability and responsibility for business, larger roles in say 3 to 4 years at max. People try to do that within 18 months. I would think that that's too short. I think you should enjoy the role, take around say 3 to 4 years in a black belt role, and then try to move into a line responsibility, a larger role, to something that you have already worked on, you have improved, etc. Try to take a line responsibility and move there. I know a lot of people who worked in big companies who have transitioned to roles which are highly respectable, roles which have P&L responsibilities for an entire region, just because they were black belts and they were improving and fixing those processes. Because of that, they had an opportunity to work really with senior people. They were able to groom their business acumen and their change management skills. And more importantly, they got the good connects. So I would say that it's very, very important for you to enjoy and have fun in the role as you are doing that. Now, before I'm going to kind of wrap up this lecture, I want to go and talk about the salary trends for black belts. So I'm going to go to indeed.com, which is again a surrogate measure for me to evaluate job requirements. If you go into any of these links, it tells you how many roles are available here and what is the average salary limit estimates. There are over easily 3,000 roles here, 2,800 odd roles here at all levels. And if you see, many of them are at mid-level. So if you are someone performing at the mid-level, it's going to be a great move. Of course, this is largely a US kind of data, but I would say that this is equally applicable across geographies as well. You could go to this tab which says find salaries, and you could type Six Sigma black belt, and you would also get reasonably good indication of the salary, and you could draw parallel to your own currency from whichever country you are as to how much money you're going to make. So there's a lot of money on hand if you are a black belt as well. So there's enough merit to considering this seriously. Okay, finally, I want to wish you all the best, and I want to leave you with a note of motivation that you can also be very successful in not only delivering value to yourself, but at least delivering 10x value to your organization. I want you to check out my website, which is sixsigmacertificationcourse.com. I'm just repeating, sixsigmacertificationcourse.com. In particular, I want to mention about the Six Sigma case study files, which cuts across various sectors and functions. I've included that. It's a free resource. My suggestion is have a look at it, and that will give you a very good insight about how you can apply Six Sigma in your industry or your sector. So wish you all the best, and very happy and glad to help you at any point of time. You can reach me out through emails, and I'm glad to help. Thank you.